If you're like me, when you were younger, you didn't realize how complicated Pokemon actually is. I thought it was just a simple monster, super effective rock, paper, scissors kind of game. But there's actually a lot of math that underpins damage calculations. One of those important things in Pokemon stats are what are called their Pokemon natures. And you may have heard a Poketubers sometime be like, hey, so this adamant Landorus did blink, blink, blink. And you're like, what does it mean for Landorus to be adamant? I need to be away from that Landorus because that's some Karen energy I'm not ready for. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about what are natures and simple ways to kind of remember them, especially if you're new. If you're a returner and already know these things, it might be helpful to learn new ways to remember them, but this is probably more for my newer folks into the competitive scene of Pokemon. So going to the original question, what are natures? Natures boost or reduce a stat by 10%. And that can have a significant implications on how a Pokemon is built. Now, before we get into the memory parts, I do think it's important to understand some basic rules about natures, because even though there are 25 natures, you do not need to learn all 25. That would be probably a waste of your time. There are really about 10 to 15 you'll really prioritize, and honestly, might even be less than that. There are some niche cases, which I'll talk about later, where you might not use these. But the point being, I will try to point out which ones are important to remember and which aren't. But here are some general rules with natures. So one is typically you don't want to lower any defense stats. On a Pokemon, your defense is important, whether it's a special defense or physical defense, because you don't know what kind of attacker you're going to face. So very rarely would you want to lower the stats of your defenses. There are niche cases, for instance, if you want to change the way that other Pokemon's abilities activate. For instance, Porygon, its ability activates based off of the defense stats of other Pokemon. So if you were specifically trying to avoid that particular matchup, you might lower defense or a special defense nature to try to get the outcome you want. But again, typically that's not what you want to do. Usually you will want to, especially for your attackers, lower the attack stat your Pokemon doesn't prefer. Most Pokemon prefer something, being a physical or special attacker. There are cases of mixed attackers, but typically those are not as competitively successful. And it's more so that a particular move is really powerful and works on a particular set that for a special attacker than like their stats in general. But there could be niche cases where you'd want to use both attacks. But maybe you want to play a more slow style of Pokemon. And we have this concept in competitive Pokemon called Trick Room, where you inverse the order of the way the turns are done. And in that case, you would actually want lower speed stats. And so on Trick Room teams, you may see more lowered speed stats. And a thing to just remember is the health stat cannot be changed. Whatever the health stat is, it is what it is, which is why Ditto, even though it can turn into any other Pokemon, can sometimes struggle with its really low HP stat. Now, of course, there are unique reasons to break all the rules I just mentioned above, but that's not the purpose of this video. And if you know those niche cases, you probably don't need this video. You probably understand why you are lowering an attack or like lowering a defense that you need to, or something of that. All right, now into the main point of this video. How are ways, tricks that we can look at this list right here of all the different Pokemon natures and try to quickly remember what they mean? So first, what we're going to do is I'm going to remove this because there'll be too many words. We're going to start off with attack. So typically things that boost attack have implications with physical strength. Attack is really the physical embodiment of strength. So we're going to start off with a lonely nature. A lonely nature, again, probably something you wouldn't run often, but if you want to think a Pokemon that's lonely, maybe they want to attack others, they're mad at the world, but they'll be attacked themselves, right? They're not too worried about their own safety. A lonely Pokemon. Whereas a brave Pokemon, which is something you may see on a Trick Room team, is it boosts its attack, but it doesn't boost its speed. It's able to stand strong. It's brave. It doesn't need to run. It's ready to fight. Then you have Adamant. You might use this on a fast physical attacker, like I mentioned, Landorus. You basically boost your attack, but you're not, your brain is kind of lost, right? And you're adamant, I'm just angry, you're not thinking about it, right? That's the way I like to think about Adamant. Then you got Naughty. Naughty, you're boosting your attack, but you're being a little silly, right? So you're not thinking about your how this could affect you, right? If you're naughty, you could be psychically hurt for what you're doing, right? You could face those kinds of consequences, but you're boosting your attack. Now, onto the defense stats. Typically, defense is boosting your toughness, right? Your physical toughness, right? Think of it as a constitution stat in like Dungeons and Dragons. First, you have bold. So bold is when you would you're so bold, the audacity, right? You can take it, but you don't really dish it, right? You're not really attacking. You're just bold. You're just I think of it as the audacity kind of nature. Then you have relaxed. A relaxed Pokemon, nothing really affects them. They're chill and they're not rushing, right? They're just walking. There's no speed necessary. And then you have impish. Impish is that they are like a little defensive, but they aren't maybe all there. Like they're not maybe the most strong, like as a psychic attacker. I tend to, even though it's not perfect, I think of Golem, right? He's not much brain, but there is defense right there, right? He's just doing what he's doing. Then you have lax, and it's annoying that there's both a relaxed nature and lax nature. Thankfully, this is one you probably won't need to know very much. But lax is you boost your defense, but you're so lax, right? You're not. I think of Snorlax. That your brain is just mush, right? You're just taking it. You're just getting hit psychically. And impish, right? The way I think about it is you're not dishing it, right? The special attack. You don't have the mental fortitude to do the attacks, and lax is you don't have the mental fortitude to take the attacks. But again, you probably won't need to learn lax very much. So in the defense categories, honestly, all of the other three, bold, relax, and impish, are fair game to memorize, as they could come up in particular situations. But when you are competing. Next up, we have our special attack stats. And our special attack stats tend to be about the brain's sort of special psychic power. First, we start off with one of everyone's favorites, Modest. A Modest Pokemon, it's really smart, but it doesn't need to speak. So it's not brash, right? It's not verbally, it's just beating you psychically, right? You're at the chessboard and it's just doing psychic damage to you. Even though you could probably beat up that chess player, they are kicking your butt on the chessboard because they're so modest, right? Their actions speak for themselves. Then you have mild. So someone who's mild is maybe they're cool in their brain, but they are just they'll get beat up, right? They're too, like, they're smart, but they'll just take it, right? They're just getting physically hurt, right? So they're mild. Then you have quiet. So quiet is someone who they got the big brain, but they're not looking to rush. They're quiet about their things, right? In the forest, they're not rustling in the leaves, right? Their power is quiet, and it's slow, right? Because there's no need to rush it. They know how strong they are. Then you have Rash. Rash is one that, again, that probably won't come up often, but I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You're Rash, you're really smart, but you're also like, you're so in your head, you're not looking logically. I think of kind of like an evil villain, super villain, Rash, right? You're smart, but you also are not really thinking everything through. Next, you have the special defense traits, which I think of those as like composure, mental resistance. Maybe like grit is like physical, right? But we got our mental composure. We're calm, which is our first one, which is our special defense, right? Where we can keep like, if you are trying to engage me mentally, it's not an issue at all, but I might not attack much, right? Because I'm really calm. I'm not trying to attack. I'm just dishing it. Then you have gentle. Gentle, you're so thoughtful here, but again, you are a little literal child, and you can be beaten up, right? Physically, right? You are so gentle. Then we got sassy. So the way I think about sassy is, if you're a sassy person like I am sometimes, I don't need to rush or move quickly, but I'm ready. I'm quick-witted. I'm ready to protect my mental defenses, right? Someone who's sassy. Then you have careful, and careful is you are boosting you're trepidatious. You're protecting your defense. You're protecting your special defense, your brain. But because you're so careful, you can't really launch attacks yourself, right? You're very like kind of a pacifist, right? You can't really do that. And now on to our last sort of set of natures. We have speed. So speed has to do with quickness, reflexes, and I think all the speed ones I think are actually pretty intuitive, which is nice. So first you have timid. So someone who's timid, right? They might move fast, they might be skittering about, but they're not really doing a lot of attacking, a lot of physical attacking. They're fast, but they're not doing much. Then you have hasty. So hasty is someone who's fast, but they're not really thinking it through. So they leave themselves for physical violence, right? They're just kind of rushing through things. Then you have jolly. Jolly for me is like ignorance is bliss, right? I'm fast. I'm moving through the world, but I'm not thinking, right? So my special attack is absolutely destroyed. And then we have naive, right? You're going fast, but you're not actually you're not ready for the world, right? You're not ready for the physical damage that the world's going to do to you. I'm so sorry for that. But the point being is that you move through the world fast, but you're not really thinking about it, so it hurts your special defenses. Now, if you notice, you might be like, you haven't said 25 natures, and that's because there are actually neutral natures. And so neutral natures are the natures in the kind of the middle. If you look where attack and goes up and down, hardy, docile, bashful, quirky, and serious, those are all neutral natures. Basically the bonus cancels out the negatives and vice versa. And so hopefully this is a helpful way to try to remember some of these terms. I will be honest, a lot of this is through repetition, and even I, when I'm looking at team sheets, have to double check sometimes. But hopefully in the future, this shorthand will be helpful for when you're listening to people talk about the competitive scene or in a Nuzlocke or things like that. Because natures were once kind of maybe seen as a more nerdy part of the game, but it's becoming more accessible, and you should know. You should be able to know how to make your Pokemon exactly how you want to. So hopefully this is helpful to kind of start memorizing those terms. But again, remember the rules I told you, and so you can that can help you decide what natures to memorize. Because if it lowers the physical or special attack, if it lowers not attack, if it lowers your defenses, you're probably not going to use it, and you're only going to really lower your speed in niche situations. And your special in physical defenses, you're really only increasing those on like support Pokemon, right? And so you'll notice certain kinds of Pokemon are certain kinds of natures, and certain kinds of Pokemon are different kinds of natures. And as you play and practice more, we'll get more familiar. But as a quick recap, generally speaking, your attack stats will boost your physical strength. Defense boosts your toughness. Special attack is your brain or your psychic kind of power. Your special defense is your mental resistance, your mental composure. And your speed is your quickness and your reflexes. And the natures that are in between, the neutral natures, your hardy, docile, bashful, quirky, and serious, I think those are kind of appropriate because they just feel kind of yes. I don't know how to describe it. They just feel neutral to me compared to some of the others, a little more neutral. So hopefully this was helpful. If this video was helpful for you at all, please let me know. If there's any other content you'd like me to go over, let me know. I am currently just posting kind of various Pokemon subjects as I'm so interested in the various Pokemon parts of the Pokemon landscape. And I don't know what interests all of you who found your way to me, but there's so many things that I'm so excited to talk about in the future, showcase for you. And next month, I'm going to be competing at the Orlando regional tournament, and then I'm going to be competing in Los Angeles in May. So very happy to know finally what regulation we're competing in. And I'll see you all on the next one. And my cat Mushroom, she says hello.